unakupa kitengo kwa kufika malengo, umesiba mapengo kwa upendo wana singo, asini vikao vya singo, maana mrembo na kujuza, mama nashukuru umekuza, chana mapete kutunza, manana uja wote wabuza, na umesha nizima, kama chani ya mdogo, nje ya sayari nipita kimono, kama chungu ya kibongo, na usiyapetani ya kutibu inyongo, maana mwemwemo na kujuza, maana nashukuru umekuza, chanda chema pete kutunza, namba uja wote wa buruzi, na umesha nisima, your love. Mama Jojo langu wewe, mama Jojo sana nitoka Jojo, mama Jojo langu wewe, Jojo langu wewe, Jojo langu wewe, utakitikisa Mama Mogoka, siku moja ukipata nafasi tukumbukane, nitalipa boda, achana mwendo kasi usijivane bane. Ewe binti maringo, sijui wanisikia, pendo lako nicheze bingo, wena nikajishindia, mwenzako bado mko singo, pendo limenichachia, uwezuka niwe tingo, wewe iwe abiria, nafsi unainyong'onyeza, naisi la moyo shambulio, nifanye chipsi chombeza, japo nionje mwazio, penzi linanilegeza. Sonona eti, nino tapata nafasi, sonona baby yoyo, nambie basi, sonona siyonge, naishi kwa.
All right. So Alphonse, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You know, I'm laughing because finally you went to the barber shop.
No. You should be asking me what my wife did.
Yeah. Oh, it
You
was
should be
done
asking me what my
for
wife
you.
did. Yeah, crisis creates creativity, and we also decided to get some hidden talents around.
Wow, wow. I didn't know this. Eh?
Uh,
You look really good now. You look very clean shaved. I'm glad your wife was able to manage that.
yeah, she's good. She has very many hidden talents, but she's up to task when things arise sometimes.
Oh, okay, good, good.
Yes.
Are you fine? We start or we start?
Yeah, we can start, but though it would have been better if we could have waited for others. But let's start so that we also finish early.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that when we tell people about time, they'll know that we always start around the same time, so that they don't have to be waiting and come when we have already gone. Or
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Great. Yeah, so I want to mention if anyone wants to join this conversation, you can just use the link. We have the link at the comment box. You just click the link. It's very simple to join. So Wekesa, wherever you are, please join. And Conrad. So we'll definitely start, and then the rest will just find us as we continue. So today we are discussing about just the economy. But before we discuss about that, maybe first we can first do a quick remark in terms of the president's big news. Maybe we start with you, Alphonse.
I don't know what was big about the news, but at least what I know that I was expecting something and I got something. So I don't know if what I got was good enough. President extended the curfew by 21 more days. Now, I listened to the curfew last time. I don't know what were the timelines, and I also know that the curfew was in court. Maybe Wekesa or Patrick will help us understand. When you talk of 21 days extended, it's from what date exactly? What is the effective date of the extension? That one I may not know, but at least I can talk about the extension of the cessation in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kwale, and Kilifi counties, which I know that when it's extended from Monday, because the 21 days are elapsing on Monday. So if we extend by 21, then it's from Monday the 27th, right? Yeah, so it will be 21 days from 27th of April. For those who want to know when it will end.
All right.
Yeah. Let me hear Wekesa first, then we maybe proceed still in the same angle of what presidents talked about.
All right, Wekesa, your perspective. Wekesa, you can proceed. Wekesa, Wekesa, are you there? Wekesa, proceed. Proceed. Wekesa.
Yeah, I think maybe as we wait for Wekesa to come on board,
Okay.
maybe it is his network.
Yeah.
A few things that the president was talking about. President, together with other governors and specifically Joho, they are pleading with Kenyans, and I think the pleading is founded that this is a matter of public health. So the public has a bigger role than any other person. So as much as the leadership might be doing things right or wrong, but what will count at the end of the day is the public's conduct in the entire process. So we should shun or run away from handling this matter as if we are doing it for the president, for the elected leaders, for the cabinet secretaries. So I think that's a very valid point for Kenyans, and we still have a point and a chance to manage the situation, though it has consequences. And let me today look at it from this perspective, specifically addressing the public. And I think this is not just in a Kenyan situation, but the entire globe. Wherever we have session, we have people to manage their conduct and how they are handling the public affairs and themselves in the public. One is I'm anticipating us to understand this as war, and it has been called war. It has been referred to as war. Now, I also know some leaders have explained to us what war actually means. When you have war and you have business, during time of war, you don't start crying about the business and you didn't open today. You are crying for things to settle. You are crying for war to come to an end. And therefore, you don't wake up thinking of going to war. You wake up hoping that the war has subsided, the war has ended. So in this case, the war is with the virus, and therefore, as individuals, as people, we need to influence ourselves in our family setting, in our local setting. If you're in a place where you stay together as tenants, in that tenancy setting, if you are working together as colleagues, as that workplace setting. So in our localized settings, small as they may be, whether family, tenancy, workplace, and any other setting, that we influence one another in those circles. And if we speak to one another, if I can influence the people who stay with me in my house, people who I was born with, the people whom I work with, then that will be a good circle to influence. If everybody did a similar thing, then we will take a shorter time to understand how this is impacting us. Because I had somebody talk of there is no corona, yet they have taken 2 weeks, they have not gone to work. So I'm wondering, are you not aware that you have not gone to work because of corona? So if you start saying there's no corona, you just prolong you not going to work. And therefore that will have other consequences that can be managed now. So let's know that it is war. And though primarily it's a health issue, a health crisis, but definitely it will spill over to our economic life. It will spill over to our social life. It will spill over to our other aspects of life. So it's on that account that I want us to be very, very responsible in our conduct and our mannerisms. We may be annoyed by the government in one way or the other, but that will not be the reason why we will be misbehaving. Yeah. So I think that's what I can say. Wekesa cannot be had.
Wekesa, can you try to talk?
Hello.
Wekesa?
Hello.
Oh, good. We could not hear you initially. So maybe Wekesa, you can do a very quick introduction, and then you will go on your sentiments about today's president's speech.
Yeah, I'm Wekesa Eric from Saku County. I'm in sales and marketing. Today was the 5th address of His Excellency the President, and always it comes with ambivalent attitude. We don't know exactly what he wanted to tell us. We may have anticipated for more strict measures. We may have also expected for some adjustment to the first measures that he had given. But I think for now, we didn't expect the extension of the 21 days, but it has happened. And my presumption is that 21 days begins from the day the first 21 days will end. Because he said we are extending by 21 days. But for the curfew, we also want to know that it formally began, the duration counting formally began from the day he pronounced the 21 days for the cessation, such that now there will be another 21 days for the curfew, alongside the 21 days of the cessation for the that is Kilifi, Kwale, and Nairobi counties. I think for Garissa, Mandera, it has its own duration because it began recently. So that
All
one
right.
will be pronounced on a different scale. But maybe my take on what the president said today, a few people said he was lively and he was trying to inspire hope amidst all the challenges we are going through. He wants to remain a hope of the nation. And we want to believe that behind the scene, they are working on something to steer this nation to the right direction. You know, as a father, I think he is also in a tricky balance. In Luya land, we have a saying that a cow which has given birth, it can lick its calf or it can kick it. So it alternates between licking and kicking. Licking to provide the comfort and kicking to instill some discipline. My perspective on what the government is doing, it is in a tricky balance. It may not have the resources it wants to help the nation go in the right direction. So it's trying to balance between the few resources they have and the hope they want to inspire in Kenyans. And that's why they are doing not as we expect, but as they can afford. Yes, as a father, you only provide for your family within your own resource, not maybe with what the society expects, but what your income can allow. So we
Right.
want to give them a benefit of doubt that they are operating within their own means.
Good. Right. So I want us to go to the details. Maybe one, the president said that those persons who are earning maybe 28,000 and below, they are getting all taxes exempted, especially pay. And also they are actually reducing VAT to 14%. And also now they are reducing pay for those people who earn more than 28% from 30% to 25%. Now, maybe Alphonse, now this is where I want the numbers. Maybe for someone who earns 50,000, someone who earns 100,000, someone who earns 200,000, and maybe a maximum of 500,000. What are the kind of figures we expect to see at the next week?
I think the easiest way for the pay is you will get a tax relief of 50,000 if you're earning 1 billion. Yeah, so you can reduce the zeros. So roughly that will simply mean 5,000 if you're earning 100,000. Yes. Now the amounts are not very significant once you earn more than 24,000. But I prepared that maybe to just share directly with the team. Let me see before the end if I'll be able to do that. But I'm interested now that we are a youthful nation. I'm interested to start with the VAT bit before you go to the pay. Though the pay is the one that has impact directly with the people, the VAT one is a bit complex.
Okay.
Now, from a direct thought, you will say that they have changed by 2% from 16 to 14. But that is actually a 12.5 change in tax. Yeah, from 16% to 12%. That's assuming that, so the tax has changed by 2 out of 16. Because it was 16, 2 of it has been reduced. So it's 2 over 16, which has been reduced. So that's how we get the percentage of 12.5%. Now you got percentage, but that nature is a bit complex. The complexity around the percentages and the figures makes sense only if you are in a bigger business and if you are the ones who usually pay to KRA the tax directly. Now the challenge with this is that most organizations don't know how to compute that to reach out to the bottom person or the direct consumer. So most VAT will not be actually felt by the consumers. Most of it won't be felt by the consumers. what consumers might get, and I think if you're purchasing airtime, I think the companies, since they have some good technological background, they just have some programming to be done, and therefore automatically you'll be getting the money instead of being reduced. For you to get the same amount, they will add on top so that the relief is added to you. It's like it is your money. So if you spend 100 shillings, you are given the 2 bob. Yeah. So if you buy airtime of 100 shillings, you are not going to pay 98 shillings to get 100. That will be a different mathematics. Instead, you'll be added 2 shillings for spending 100, so that they have returned the 2 shillings, but now they return it as part of airtime. So you, instead of having airtime of 100, you end up having an airtime of 102. Yeah, but what that means also is that the money will all be used for airtime. But you see, for you and me who are direct consumers, the 2 shillings may not look significant at that point. But now, if you look at the one returning the 2 shillings, if they return it to 1 million people, yeah, that means they have returned how much? 2 times 1 million, which is 2 million. So if they expected, if the average is because at some point I think the average is around 10 million people spending to 20 bob. So if 20 bob is bought by 10 million people, that's worth of 20 times 10, which is 200. Now, if you now look at the percentage that they need to return of the 200 million, then you find it's a bit significant for an organization to do it that per day. But to you, it will be just a 0 point something being returned. So you may not necessarily feel it. So the VAT feeling may not be as huge. What we are expecting to feel huge in terms of the taxation is basically the pay as you earn. The question that we need to answer in this forum for our listeners and viewers is this cannot be done because of the decree of the president. It must first go through the parliament. Now, it cannot be effected by employers before the parliament makes it law and it gets gazetted, or it gets to be assented to by the president. So the question is, has it been assented to? If yes, when was it assented to? If, let's say, it was done so yesterday, now, because I know before Wednesday it was not yet done. So let's say it was done yesterday. Some people are paid on Wednesday. Now, in that document, what was the effective date? I have not seen the document. That's why I'm talking with some reservations. That document is supposed to say the effective date of the law. So if the effective date, because the effective date of the decree was on 1st of April. But now, when the law comes, once it is done, it can also go by 1st of April or set a new date, which can be the same day they are sending to it. So what is the effective date? So that when employees will be expecting their salaries at the end of this month, if the effective date is different from 1st of April, then what that will mean is that they will not be enjoying that benefit this month, but they will enjoy it from next month. On the other hand, if you're an employer, you have a few people on your payroll and you're the one paying. If you're not sure, then deduct as before, because you have up to pay is made up to when? Up to 15th or 9th? I think should be 9th.
9th, yeah.
9th. Yeah, so pay is done by 9th of the following month. So we have around slightly more than 2 weeks from now before you make the payment. So if you deduct as before, because your things are not clear, then you don't run the risk of paying from your pocket. So that once it is now clear, if it is clear that it is effective from this month, then you just pay what is supposed to be paid, and whatever you remain with, now pay people. You deducted them, then you are still withholding it, now you can pay them either in the next payroll or in between, best being in between, because the money is already there. Yeah, but in terms of tax accounting, ensure that you are clear with the law before you make the action.
All right, good. So, Wekesa, you hear what Alphonse, the angle Alphonse is bringing, but to you, I want to come up with the issue the president raised, that it's the measures they are bringing in sanitation and hygiene campaign nationwide is going to create, I think, 28,000 or more jobs. Now, initially, sanitation has never been something that we are maybe thinking can be something big right now. How does this change the landscape of this kind of business for sanitizers or any projects that is done even from NGO's angle?
Yes, I heard him well. He talked about it's going to create around 26,000 jobs for the youths, which will be upscaled after, I think, a month to 100,000 jobs. That means there will be a full-fledged campaign for sanitization and hygiene that we something that we had taken it for granted and we are doing at our own will, but this time it's going to be enforced by the public and the people who are employed to do that. And for us, it's the same way we gave priority to NYS youths in terms of serving the nation, and part of it created publicity in the things that we need to do right. So I'm seeing it giving the health angle a more focus and a more focus on the things we need to do, especially now that we are supposed to do the hand washing, the wearing of the masks, and just keeping distance for us to ensure that we are keeping safe. Part of it is it's a short-term measure, but to create a long-term habit, that this needs to be a habit that Kenyans need to inculcate, because we are also not sure how long the virus is going to take for it to be cleared in all our nations. And therefore, we have a habit of forgetting that and going back to normalcy. But there needs to be people who can reinforce that. I think we have left the reinforcement to the administration and the police. And the problem with the police is we always feel unsafe. We always feel that they are patronizing us. We always feel they are threatening us. And so if we have people employed just to, it's like civic education. If we have people employed to do that in the right way and also provide information. Part of it is most Kenyans are lacking information that concerns the sanitization and the hygiene that we need to keep. And this hygiene does not only affect the COVID-19, but all health issues. And it's a good culture we need to inculcate, such that, by the way, do you know, like most of us, we are used to somebody can go to the toilet and come out and just greet people, and it's okay. We don't think washing hands after visiting the toilet is that a serious thing. But right now we are learning from this challenge we have been put in, that we need to practice hygiene, because there are, as most of people have not been aware, that we live with invisible organism. These the bacteria. We live with the bacteria, we live with viruses and fungus just around us. And anytime they can tamper with our health. So we, by us enforcing sanitation and hygiene, we are enhancing our health and minimizing chances of us falling sick.
Right.
Yes, okay.
Great. Thank you for that aspect. I'll come to you, Ekesa, again. But I want to bring in Conrad. Conrad, you can do a quick introduction, and then now you can weigh in terms of the government national campaign on sanitation and hygiene.
Okay, I'm Conrad Sanya joining in from Busia. Okay, I didn't. I was busy today, so I didn't manage to see that. I was just reading it right now, the speech, when I heard you talking about it, because I didn't manage to watch anything today. I was busy the entire day, but I've just read it, a bit of it, the part where he was talking about that sanitation and the rest of the things. I think it is a good idea. It is a good idea in the right direction, but it's not the only thing we need to do right now, because that is just, it will help us to be able to at least reduce the rate of transmission of this virus. But I think what he has done, as long as people have access to water, people have access to sanitation, I've seen they are trying to localize even mask production. I think it is one of the steps in the right direction to involve people in activities so that they can be able to resonate well with whatever measures the government is taking.
All right, good. All right. So, Alphonse, I want to come to you. Alphonse, are you there? Alphonse?
I'm here.
All right, good. So, Alphonse, what we are talking about national campaign in terms of sanitation, hygiene. I know so many social enterprise companies which do that. Even there's so many NGOs, the Rotary Club, and so many who are engaged in these kind of works. Now, my question is, if the government is going to do this, how is it going to work with these private entities who have been providing this in a harmonious way without necessarily having the MOH maybe to do it directly?
I think I'm a proponent of anytime we have too much privatization of something, then it's not going anywhere. It's either the government is working or not working. It's that simple. So if government was to put its best foot forward, it's supposed to lead by doing. If there's anybody who is in the space, they can be facilitated. The facilitation, most of these things already we have policies in place, so they just work within that policy framework, because the policy framework always assumes that at any one time the government will be taking the lead role. So they just use that policy framework, and if they're in that space, they know how to go about it. The only challenge that this time they are doing it under constrained circumstances, when there's restricted movement, this restricted access to individuals or people, because this is something that requires you to meet people in crowds, and there's no, at the point we are in now, crowds are not encouraged. So they may not have the muscle, the mechanisms, and capacity like that of the government itself to reach out to almost every corner of the society. So what they can do is, if there are aspects of it, they can actually just work with the government, either by raising their own people to say that the government will be doing it, but we will be working with you. So let us work under your umbrella. Let me use, I think the best easy thing to give an example is, for example, Kenyan troops in Somalia are no longer in Somalia as Kenya, but they're there as AMISOM. Yet they're Kenyans, but now they work under the command of AMISOM. So in the same manner, these different groups can now work under the command of the government, but they provide themselves available in terms of human resource, available in terms of the technical know-how and ability of doing what the government wants to do in the space, and also they can provide the physical resources or financial resources that will facilitate the program to be more successful within a shorter time.
Okay, good.
So I think
good.
there's still room for them to work, and they should not take it as competition. They should take it as a part and parcel of their work is now being appreciated. That what they have been doing actually means a lot in the society. So they should ride on that.
So it's more on complementing each other.
Yes.
Yeah, Wekesa, I want to come to you, maybe because we are talking about sanitation and hygiene. I just maybe want your take. Trump made a very controversial statement on that space. So maybe I want you to interpret that statement for us, because I'm not comfortable interpreting it.
Okay. I had he, in the process of giving his daily briefings, he talked about if the sanitizer or if the disinfectant can work, like it can deal with the virus, it can kill it, then why don't we have people injected in the lungs so that it deals with the virus completely? And it reminded me of a day when one of the persons in my locality went to the hospital and was told that your baby is suffering from anemia, has little blood, so it needs additional blood for the baby to function normally. But now, because of fear of the bill, I think he thought like, now let me go home and do the necessary. So he went home and slaughtered a chicken and took the blood and gave the baby to drink, thinking that because that he needed blood, by drinking a blood, it will be able to supplement what was lacking. I think so. So I don't know whether he talked it from the same way he says he talked it from a sarcastic point of view. But I think we are in a serious crisis that we don't need jokes. We don't. We will assume that he missed the point and he needs actually to apologize for misleading not only the nation but the whole world. You can't at such a time you can't afford to make silly mistakes. At such a time you can't afford to issue empty statements. At such a time you can't afford to say anything that crosses your mind. But I want to believe that he is one guy surrounded with experts, and he has a cohort of experts in different fields, in terms of technical knowledge, in terms of medicine knowledge, in terms of pharmaceutical knowledge, such that when he comes to brief the nation, it is the summary of what he has heard from his advisors. So we want to believe him when he says things that don't make sense. We want to believe that that is what he was advised to say, because
Okay.
you cannot have a nation. Let me even put it in the context. This is a guy, every day he goes on Twitter and say that America is the nation with the best experts. We have the best. We have the best. Everything is the best, the best. How can the best give us the worst? How do you give us a statement that looked like this guy just woke up from nowhere and started his press briefing?
Okay, good. Thank you for your take. Conrad, I want to come to you. Maybe now I want we shift focus to more about innovation and post COVID. Now, Conrad, how do we create jobs after this COVID? Maybe for the young people, for everyone who will be affected post this COVID-19. How do we create jobs?
Well, let me just talk talk about the Trump thing first of all. I'll just be very short about it. I watched the thing. They're normally very late. I think it was around 1ish or something. I watched that day the press briefing, and I think it's just the media blowing things out of proportion. You see, this guy has a tendency of asking. You see, all of us, we have that kid instinct to ask very stupid questions. So when that guy from, I don't know, that laboratory or something was presented, then when he finished, the guy simply asked a question. Can you think of ways of trying? Can it be possible? So he was just asking some very stupid questions. Like all of us, it's only that some of us, we can have those stupid, we can fantasize about those stupid questions, and we don't talk, but they are probably in our minds. You can just wonder, okay, sanitizer, okay, can we not find a way? So I think that is what he was thinking, because it was a question he asked. He didn't say that. It was just a question he asked to that guy. Then the guy was like, okay, I think he is also having a big problem, because I think their country, they are thinking about opening the country, so but there's a lot of resistance, so he's under a lot of pressure. Now coming to post-COVID and the how do we create jobs? I think we COVID is here for a long time, as it has already been said. There is no way we can eradicate it very soon. Eradicating it is through the pandemic taking its own course until the end. So I think we should be thinking of how do we create jobs now, because how do we mitigate the effects of COVID? How do we suppress infection? At the same time, allow commerce to happen, because that is the only way we can get out of this thing. Because post-COVID, if we are thinking about post-COVID, and from so many people they're talking about one thing. The only time the only sure way of this COVID to end, or the only time this COVID will subside, is there are only two ways. Either they get three ways. I mean, either they get a cure, which probably won't be of much use, or they get a vaccine, or we develop herd immunity. Those are the only three ways out of this. A vaccine right now is even the more ambitious one from Oxford. They are still working on a timeline of 18 months. Or if they try, that is an expedited process. If they try early 12 or something months, that is the timeline, if it is successful. But what will we be doing during that time? So it's time, us as a country, and so many countries in Africa, we don't have the luxury, we don't have the finances. We can't sit pretty and say we will do this post-COVID, because they will go into a lot of troubles which we can't be able to get out. I managed to, I think it was Ukuru Atani, one of the newspaper, where Ukuru Atani was saying that they have been given uh, a grace period of 6 months to pay Kenyans loans, but they're asking for more time. So you can imagine how short 6 months is in this current context. If there's no commerce in this country, if there's nothing, then you are heading to a very dangerous place. So I think we should be thinking about how do we manage this virus, how do we control this virus and allow ourselves to be productive, because there's no other good time for commerce to happen
Okay.
than this time, because we have the oil prices are at their lowest. And I think I was reading the speech, or the Uhuru Kenyatta speech, just right now when you're in session, and I think he said part of the things he was talking about is that they are gathering more data, and that data probably will inform them whether to lift those restrictions or not. But we all know where the data is taking us to. So we hope that by gathering that data, they'll be thinking also about how do we ensure that during this time, because if you wait post-COVID, nobody knows when that will be. It will be too late. It will be a lot of things we need to think about. But on a general thing, a general point is that post-COVID, there'll be a lot of changes. How we pursue jobs, how jobs are done, where uh, the nature of jobs, the nature of jobs will change dramatically post-COVID. That is for sure, because more people, this stay-at-home thing, work from home, I think it will become a thing now, because many companies will see, they'll ask you how much, what is your job description? Can you do these things at home? If you can do, you are saving on office space. It was something that it was being encouraged, people to work from home, business to go online, but I think there's some lethargy, it was a new thing they did, but now probably companies are beginning to realize that it is something actually that can work, that can make sure we can also save on things like office space. So I think post-COVID, the nature of jobs will change dramatically.
Okay. Thank you, Conrad, for that take. Alphonse, are you there? So you hear what Conrad take is now. How do we create? It's a very big question, because now Conrad is saying we need to create the jobs we are talking about now, because this COVID-19 will be here for a long time. Yeah. So how do we create these jobs now?
For who? Those who have lost, or those who had the jobs afresh?
All Kenyans, those who have lost and
My
those who.
question is rhetoric, in the sense that I know people want jobs, but now let me give a perspective here. We don't just want the jobs because we want the jobs. There's something called decent jobs. So when you think of job creation, the first thing that we should be discussing, if we want to have a meaningful discussion, is to have a decent job. Now, I have never interviewed any of you and those who are even watching and listening us on this one, but I can confirm, even before the interview, if I was to carry it out, that each one of you, whether you are having a consistent earning or not, you have dependents, and they don't need to be your spouse and children.
Yeah.
You have people whom you support by default. So if you earn stably, and if you earn more, if you earn sustainably, and if you earn decently, then you'll also have a more predictable support for other members, either of your family or of society in general. So I want to give an example of a family where 10 people are searching for a job, and they are from the same family. They are siblings. Now, so there's two situations. Situation one, where all the 10, each person is earning 5,000. They have all gotten a job, each being paid 5,000 Kenya shillings. I think that is $50 if you convert it into dollars. Roughly. So their monthly salary each is $50. They are 10. So in short, they earn $500 collectively. Now, I also want to give another scenario 2, where only 2 of them are working. The other 8 are not working, but those 2 who are working, each is earning $5,000. That means 500,000 Kenya shillings each, but only 2 are working. Now, in these 2 scenarios, for this home, which one do you think we should advocate for? Where all the 10 are working, earning $50, or where only 2 are working, earning $5,000 each? Because now collectively they'll be earning $10,000, which is $1 million. Now, when talk of decency of a job, the first thing we must appreciate that there is no one single time in history, before and after now, that entire population that's supposed to be employed will be employed. There's no time like that. So when we are thinking of jobs, we should not be thinking of the number of jobs. We should be thinking of the quality of jobs being created and the value of those jobs that we are creating. Because if we create high value jobs, then we can support more people who are jobless to be more productive, even if not employed in any gainful employment. They can be productive in the society because they can still pursue things that will be of great importance to the economy. Now, we must start by thinking through it, planning about it, and then executing. Now, we have never done it before, so I don't think the crisis is going to make us do it at the moment. The only time we did a planning as the country was in 1973. And the planning was well documented by the then Minister for Finance, which I think was Mwai Kibaki. Now, most of the things we run on to date in our economy, we're just changing wording here and there. But most of the principles that we run in this economy since 1976, because after then we have never had any other substantive change of economic perspective, either in planning or execution of an existing plan, is they came up with either Tomboya, Pinto, or Kibaki. And Kibaki has the greatest of the contribution to the economy when it comes to planning and foresight for the future. So we are lacking that aspect today of what exactly do you want? Because we are not just asking people to get the jobs. We are asking, if we are talking of jobs, they must be quality jobs. There must be jobs that make sense. There must be jobs that are decent in payment, in their nature, and in nature or in response to those people who are doing them. Whether they are skilled employment or jobs, unskilled or semi-skilled, unskilled or skilled. Now, back to what we were supposed to focus on today, which I think was it was to do with technology.
Yeah.
How we use technology to create jobs post-COVID crisis. Now, what we must agree is Conrad has talked about working from home being a new concept. Now, working from home became a big headache in the 1970s in India. Yes, and it is the biggest challenge the world has faced when it came to the 1980, 1982, 83, 84, 85, and India having the largest workforce then that were in that category that were doing the apparel, in the apparel industry, the industry of garments, textile, and clothing. Yeah, most people were actually working from home. So you only go to the factory to pick the raw materials, you go and do it from home. So you'll be paid according to how much you have done, but you work it from home. So it was discovered, if you look at the research done around the same space, that people were doing so much work with their children, with the family members who are not paid, and they don't have social security. So this working from home concept has been there before, but technology has now come to change it. And it changed it when in our generation, I am very sure you know that many people have been doing what we call online writing. So if you look at how the online writing or freelancing work online is done, whether it is the web development and any other form of this gig, it's called gig economy because it's now huge. Look at that economy in general. It has so many freelancers who are doing non-sustainable jobs. And when you are starting Ajira, for example, digital, which is being run by Ministry of ICT, and I think it's now housed at Kenik along Waiyaki Way in Nairobi. This project is actually a very good project. I've analyzed it. I've looked at it. It does not make any economic sense. It will engage 40,000 young people, yes, but they can't sustain themselves in it. So what we need to be discussing at this point is post-COVID, technology definitely will be giving us a leverage. We are going also to embrace technology the most, but we cannot embrace it when we have not had investment in infrastructure countrywide. Because you see, there are things I'm doing now in my house that I am paying my house more expensively. I can do the same things in my house in the village, but I don't have infrastructure in the village to do the things I'm doing here. So I'm forced to come to Nairobi, live in Nairobi, yet the things I'm doing can be done elsewhere. I can develop your website from my house if I'm a website developer. I can do coding from my house. I can develop e-commerce platforms from my house in the village. But unless I have internet stable and affordable in the village, and I get the same returns as here, there will be no need for me to work in the village because the opportunities are rare. So what I'm thinking is both in the space of the Google loans that were talked about, and I've heard they're coming in August, and other infrastructural expansion that we have with Safaricom and Telcom, we should go to the ground, the grassroots, that each and every locality, villages, schools specifically, if we were to use primary schools, and we use administrative centers like the chief camp, assistant chief camp, and also the village elders localities, that they have the access to this internet and technological space that allows them to be online, then I think that will give us the first leverage, that we need the infrastructure, affordable and widespread. So how will we create the jobs? Let me post that here from Conrad and Wekesa. But what I anticipate is that whatever we are doing offline or we are doing on the live, we can actually change it to online. But we must be having the goodwill, because most of the things government do for me or for us, government is taking 5 days, even creating passport. I have to go and get there. Yet I can. You are seeing my image now. I can do everything from the comfort of where I'm sitting. I went and passport. You go to get your you go for your passport and you come back with it within 2 hours. Botswana here, not very far. In Nairobi, I went there and I was told 2 weeks. 3 weeks later, I didn't have my passport. So and when I actually asked what is remaining and what is being done, then you discover they are keeping the file. So
Right.
yeah, so let's hear. But when the technology will not create jobs fast. It will first disrupt everything happening, and there will be an outcry. So if you're not ready for that disruption, because even the little jobs we have first will disappear before now we create new opportunities, because technology comes with creation of efficiencies and effectiveness. And the first thing, therefore, if the job that was being done by 10 people will be managed by one person and a machine, then after that, then we now have what we call auxiliary services that now are enhanced, and we now get more jobs being done.
All right, good. So, Wekes, I want to come to you in this angle, especially when it comes to education. I saw there is a partnership being made between Safaricom and USIU in terms of reducing the cost of bundles for USIU students to be able maybe to study from home. But my question is, homeschooling has been, maybe for other countries in the West, has been there for a long time. How can this be replicated in this country where we advocate even for more homeschooling? How can we achieve it?
Okay, let me weigh in what Alphonse was talking about technology before I go to education. You know, by I think last year, 2019, the world was still 7.7 billion people. And out of 7.7 billion people, 2.6 were on social media and technology. They are using technology in terms of social media and then these other platforms. When you look at technology and what is happening is that most people, when you look at someone like Amazon now is ranked among the richest people in the world.
Yeah.
And it's because of online shopping. So the other way of looking at it is that if this guy ran his business in the normal setting of having the supermarkets, the normal supermarkets and whatever, he could not be where he is. So that mind shift from the normal way of doing business to the technology way of doing things amplified his opportunities and gave him a stand in the global market. And you look at it, he has not only created business, but he has actually created job opportunities for others who might be looking at technology as a source of income. When you go to his space, you'll find you can create content. Like for the content creators, you can go on Amazon and create content. You can pick some of the products and advertise, and you earn what we call a referral what
Affiliation.
yes, referral fees. So as you create more customers who can get engaged with the products that are being advertised on Amazon, you too has an opportunity to earn from it. He has created opportunities like for us who are into writing. You can self-publish you can publish your own content, books, and whatever. And in that, you will find that you will be achieving your dream and also earning a few cash. So what I'm looking at it is helping us to think critically that as much as land is a factor of production, we moved from, we need to understand actually the dispensation we are living in. That we moved from the agrarian revolution, we came to industrial revolution, and now we are in an information age. And they say that civilization doesn't flow backwards. So we are in an information age, and we need to see how do we align ourselves with the information age and use much of these opportunities to benefit ourselves. Let me just weigh in what is happening, because they say that around 12 million of Kenyans, let me narrow down to Kenya, are on social media. And you will find we are generating a lot of content on social media, but which doesn't help us. Do you know there are people whose tweets, whose Instagram photos, and whose Facebook content is money generating venture? But most youths have not utilized that. They need to understand if, by the way, sometimes you can upload a photo, and that photo trends from Twitter to Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere. But most youth have never understood how do you make even a photo that is trending be part of your, because yeah, there is a way you can, there is a way photos are uploaded such that that is part of you. And wherever it's going, it's creating your own views. So these are the things that youth needs to understand, that when you are on social media, don't just use that space for socializing, but there are opportunities to tap in if you understood this very clearly. Even the bloggers and those people who generate content in the YouTube, there's a way you can create content in YouTube. How do you make it more likable, and people, when they search your content, they come into across your content? And how do you create maybe advertising opportunities in your content such that people are not just viewing your content, but it's earning some income on that? I think these are some of the things we need to think critically. And even as our friend Patrick, how do we make this channel, as people are viewing it, to be a source of opportunity in terms of money generation? That's what we need to think about it critically.
Great. Thank you very much. From a marketing specialist point of view, it's very good. So anyway, Conrad, I want to come to you. My take to you is
my take. I will give me my take in the other session.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I don't get. Wekesa, sorry.
There's a take you asked me on education.
Yeah, on education.
I will do it on the other session.
Sorry, no problem. All right. So, Conrad, for us to achieve maybe this technology and digital space, maybe creating that economy to thrive, we also need this to be replicated in the education system. And this more is how even we do our education. So, maybe can you give us a perspective in terms of homeschooling future, and as well as maybe even the university schooling going forward?
Okay. I think nowadays people are more exposed to technology than ever before. Most learners are more more learners are more exposed to technology than ever before, and these are not like stuff you will train people and say probably we are training people to do this. No, the only way you can help these people is through providing the means for them to use this, to start using them at an early age. You see, training is like what we used to do in some years back. You go to, I don't know if people are still doing right now. You go to some, after Form 4, something like that, you go to some computer college and learn something. Then after that, you learn packages. Then after that, you have no computer, so you forget everything. So we should not, it's not a must that is part of the curriculum, but are there the necessary tools for these people to interact with technology? That's the thing we should be asking. We should be asking. They have the laptop. What is it called? Is it laptop or is it tablet or whatever? In primary school, probably it will expose them at an early age to start doing this thing basically, so that by the time they are of mature by the time they go to high school, by the time they go to university, then this is part of them. Because when you go to university, you come across so many people who have never even seen a computer. They are seeing it for the first time. Probably some even finish without ever know how to operate it. So you find these are things that are exist. So at first we need to expose our 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 learners to this to technology early enough. It's not a must, it should be part of the curriculum, but those means should be there early enough. Once they start using, because technology is about you using this and this and this, not about you learning how to it's about you actually using, because you don't need to learn to most of these things. You learn as you go by, but you need to be exposed and see this is how it works. Once you are exposed, then you can be able to use this stuff on your own. So when it comes to learning, I think university, we have not actually picked online courses have not actually picked up in Kenya. There are so many bottlenecks, so many people not being conversant with how online learning is. But I think it's time for a university to upgrade some of these courses, some short-term courses, because it's not always about this degree or diploma or what. There are other courses that can be skill-based, that can be put. Somebody from Busia, somebody from Turkana can learn that if he wants to learn a certain skills. Those are the things you start with. There are other skill-based things like that can be programmed so that people can be able to access this, they can be able to learn, so that as we go by, we go case by case and analyze which courses can go online, instead of just saying we want to abolish cases, we want to concentrate on this. This is not, no, you can change so that it is optional. You can do, because it's not always about that. Once, if you are doing a certain degree, you want a job after that. This job mentality is what is creating like policies like abolishing certain courses, because so many people are going there in the hope that once they leave, they'll get a job. We want to go case by case and look at which courses can go online, which courses can we learn online. But you can start with this other skill based, this other training that add more knowledge to people. They can go online, and I think the future even for far-flung areas where probably they don't have access to teachers, like Northeastern, the likes of this. If you have 4G coverage across this country, across these places where they're always complaining, we don't have teachers, we don't have what. It is easier. For example, in cases where we had like Al-Shabaab attacks, teachers are living en masse. They're leaving students there. They have they have to close schools because there's no teacher. They have to get another teacher. But if we had something, if we know there's a certain security challenge, the Minister of Education can put other mitigation measures and ensure that these learners can be able to learn remotely, even as they try to sort out these things. Then they can look at modalities of how that can be implemented, because it is easier. We should look at technology as solving the needs we have in this country. And we have so many needs. We have security challenges, people living Northeastern, teachers going there, they go there a certain year, then they leave, all of them. Then we have to look for others again. So places like those ones, the short-term measures, we can try that so that they don't have any gap. We can try to leverage on technology. Even it's not always only that. We have other far-flung areas where probably the access to teachers is very low. They have 2 or 3 teachers for a whole school. So we can try to think of how best can we do these things remotely. Can we ensure that remote learning is part of our education system, so that to try to address some of these issues, these staffing challenges, and it can be done, because one teacher can do so many lessons at the same time remotely, and we can look at modalities, how those kids in how the assignment will be given, who will look after that. All those things can be worked out, but we need to look at technology as trying to assist the gaps you have in this country, so that we move forward
Okay,
as we
good.
address, because some of this time we cannot say that if we have a shortage of 50,000, we'll employ them. No, we cannot employ them at once, probably because of finances, but we can try to look at ways of ensuring that the ones we have, we can upgrade the capacity and we can leverage the technology so as to try to fill in the gaps.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. Thank you, Conrad, for that perspective. So, Alphonse, I want to come to you in terms of now maybe going forward, the kind of the new normal we'll be used to, especially. Okay, we have talked about healthcare and how this COVID-19 will change the whole landscape. We were talking about telemedicine, and we are looking. Maybe we are hoping that we can be able to have telemedicine in the whole country, and maybe specialists will be able even to see someone who is in Turkana. But now I want to come to other services like maybe judiciary. There's so many, like for example, if I've been arrested in Kisumu over speeding, and maybe I've been told to come back to court. Now, are we talking about having implementing technology going forward, even to solve those kind of issues, whereby someone can even attend court without necessarily going to the court rooms?
Yeah, technology facilitates. It also provides convenience. Now, let me start with the example of the courts. In Kenya, our judiciary is not yet prepared for the virtual sessions, but at least we have in major towns, major regional hubs, for example, Meru, Nyeri, Embu, Nairobi, Kisumu, Eldoret, Nakuru briefly, but not as much, but Nakuru, yes. We have Mombasa, we have Machakos, and a few other centers, but town centers only. But we also have others that totally don't even have power, but they have courts. So most of the cases in court, and apart from criminal cases, or majority of the civil cases, can be heard without physical appearance in court from start to end, so that only situations that require judgment and judgment that may have an option of arrest and imprisonment are the ones that at that point you are required there, and most of them are criminal cases. So the rest is that they can be done virtual, but it starts with budgetary allocation. It starts with planning and focus. Now, if they budget for that and they are given the money, that's the project that can be achieved within 1 year or within one cycle of financial year. So that going up beyond that is the issue of now managing security, confidentiality, and growth and development of the same existing system. But it's not an expensive system, and it will do a lot because you can actually have more cases done at a faster speed, and also more judgments done, so that if you ask for submissions are done online. Payments are done the way they're being done currently, because I'm involved in a few cases as we speak. So at least I know what's happening in court as we speak, that you can actually do a submission. The registry will just confirm what you are submitting, how much does it cost, then you pay via M-Pesa, and then you get the receipt, and everything is done virtually. It has happened in the month of March and April. I've seen such happen, so it can happen. So if it was in terms of trial version, the trial has worked well in most of the occasions, above par, so it can be achieved in our courtrooms. But I'm interested in our focus today. Our focus today was about creating jobs post-COVID using technology. Now, I have reiterated on this platform that for you to have a sustainable job, what you are doing for it to be marketable, for it to get a market, for it to be paid for, you must be solving a problem. Number two, you must be creating an experience. Now, what you need to do is use both your formal training and your interest or passion to create the niche. Once you have created the niche using your passion, interest, or formal training, then ask yourself in that space that you can perform, what is it that you need in terms of a skill to solve what type of problem or to provide what type of experience, that will wow the customer or the target group. Now sharpen that skill, and sharpening that skill can be done online. Now I like using my own examples so that because I've done some of these things, when you do them, and I don't do them with a lot of pressure. I do them just for free time. Then you discover you are growing. Now, I remember my first degree I got in agriculture. Yeah. Now, along the way, I worked in an agricultural farm, but in the farm, I discovered there were very many things. Then part of it is the thing that required us to use computer. So I started learning computer without going for the computer colleges that Conrad was talking about. I just went online, got access to an internet, and I had a machine, and I could ask questions, and somebody just tells me, this is how you use the keyboard, this is what you do here, these are the keyboard shortcuts. Then later on, I because of the need of what I was doing, I perfected the art. But in my later stage, I also went to work in a bank. And when I went to work in a bank, the bank came up with a resource center where they had some computers, so that if you want to get there, you can go there. So I looked at my reporting time and my exit time, and then I looked at the traffic in Nairobi. So I ensured that both morning and evening traffic will not get me on the road. So in that period of 2.5 years, when I purposed for that, I started learning website development. And, as we speak, I have a business from 2015 that does website development, which is purely learned on YouTube. And what motivated me is to learn that somebody can become an athlete and become a world champion, and that was Diego, through YouTube. Then I started exploring YouTube, and after being conned twice by some crooked developer, website developers, I asked myself, what does it take to be a website developer? So when I went to YouTube, spending 2 hours a day, it took less than 5 months. I made the first website for a children's home, and then second one for a church, and then I now say I can do it. So I wanted to get somebody who has a problem, and then I do it. And along the way, I created a business out of it. So, and because people are in need of this, I have been able to be getting customers who are paying. Now, in the same spirit, in what space are you in as a young person? Because post-COVID, the question is, will you be having a skill that can solve that problem that the community has brought your way? So if you don't have the skill, even if you're employed, you will still be sacked, or you'll still be rendered jobless because you are not able to do the job that you're being given. So the issue is arm yourself in advance with a skill. Now, once you have armed yourself, we are asked, what type of job do you want us to give you? What type of job are you searching for? Be very specific. In my country, there is this slang, we say, mi nataka kazi yoyote. I need any type of job I can do. There's nobody on earth who can do any type of job. And having also been a recruiter, I can confirm that every recruiter is scared of somebody who wants to do any type of job. But every recruiter gets interested in somebody who has a specific thing they can do, even if it's not available now. Because then you can say, I am interested in A, B, I can do it very well. However, for now, since I have nothing engaging me, if you have any opportunity that either I can learn and do on the job, or I can do, you can give me the opportunity, I'll give my best. But if you are going for interview, you are going to ask for people to help you get a job, and you're saying anything you can do, then you're not worth doing anything anyway. So post-COVID, prepare yourself. Now, it is not about your papers. The days people used to be hired because of your degree, your papers, is long gone. Because after all, it has been found that people with higher qualifications have lower ability to do the job in most occasions. So if you have higher qualifications, you also have higher chances of being denied the job because of the predecessors, people who went ahead of you. So you must be sure that you can also do it. So don't put your papers ahead. The papers are just a key to enter the room. But what will be done in the room is the skill you possess. So ensure you sharpen your skills during this period. When you have time in your hands, do something that is meaningful. Prepare yourself mentally, even just how you talk to people, etiquette. Yeah, how you groom yourself, how do you present yourself? Yeah, you go to a place that is extremely formal, with extremely printed clothing, then you are out of place. So you need to understand the etiquette. What type of job requires what type of dressing? Where, when I go where, how do I need to talk? How much do I need to say in no type of context? Such things are very needful. People call them soft skills, but they are actually, in my view, should be referred to as essential skills, because they are life skills and they're skills that will make or break your progress in career.
Great, great. Thank you for that wonderful take. Yeah? So, Wekesa, I want to come to you in terms of in this crisis right now. Of course, we want to create those technology works or even jobs we can do. Now, the question is, maybe like yesterday we were talking about ventilators. Mutungu has taken ventilators. Maybe someone is not going to thrive in that space. I'm just saying maybe. And then other people are doing different things in that space. Now, the question is, which are these now jobs someone can look that they can actually create right now or even post-COVID on the technology space?
Okay, I will always be one question behind.
It's okay.
I didn't answer that one on
The
on
schools.
education. Okay, let me try and answer both. This guy called Soshoni told Mogoha that don't tell us that there's online learning that is going on in Kenya. What is going on is just PR. And I could understand the script is reading from. By 2015, the so-called technology or Kenyans who are on internet, actually 80% were in Nairobi. So that means when we talk about technology, can we also talk about the distribution curve in terms of how many Kenyans are exposed in terms of technology? When you go to other towns, there are pockets of Kenyans who are exposed to this technology. You will see some schools in the interior who claim to have a computer lab, but actually when you look at what is called a computer lab, it's an octogenarian kind of computers. And so if we have to talk about technology, then we need to have a rollout across the country. So when we talk about education, can we advance our education in terms of using online learning? We need, first of all, to roll out the whole technology across the nation such that no child is disadvantaged because he is in Garissa and another child is in Nairobi. Because if we talk about online learning, believe you me, Nairobi will get it right. But other spaces, they will struggle because a few of them are exposed to this technology, and therefore they will not catch up with the rest of the country. When you look at the British system, is an online kind of learning, where even you have you can choose an online tutor, and then it gives you the lecture, the assignments, then you can mark for yourself even what you have studied and get the progress. You can learn with your own computer. Just as you click online, from the programs are already set. And we need also to catch up with the rest of the world, because we are not just talking about online learning because of COVID, but actually that is where the advanced countries are. And we need to see how do we prepare a Kenyan student so that he can suit into the global space. Yeah, so in terms of, you saw yesterday, almost all the vice chancellors of the major universities in the world converging and having a talk the same way we are having a chat online. And we say that I think this has caused a rethink in terms of maybe how do we carry on in our education and how do we share information. So we are a global village and we need to be at the same level. Otherwise, it will just be a story for others to tell. Please remind me your question for the new.
Yeah. So the next question was about which kind of technological jobs that a person can now think of creating now, even after COVID-19.
Yeah, technological jobs are there. You don't need just to invent them, but we need to adapt to them. Let me say, for example, most companies, the technology department has become a major department. Let me give you an example of a few companies I've worked in. Today, in terms of sales and marketing, even when I tell you I'm still at work, a part of work I can do it in my house. I have all the data, or I have an application from my company. I can see all my customers. I can check in their shop and place an order. So most of the company, in fact, when we were going for interview, part of the interview was, do you have a smartphone? So that tells you it is the space you are entering. It means that you should be able to do a technology, to operate technology, so that it can aid you in terms of your sales and marketing. Most of companies have they're using universal, especially the multinational companies. They're using the applications where they can be able to trace their selling, their distribution channels, their marketing, adverts. They are able to know, to place their orders online. They are able to trace their assets online. Like you can be today, there are what we call the tracking of the vehicles. You can still be able to see that a certain salesperson is in Umoja and the vehicle is standing there for 5 hours. So you know that your salesperson is not moving. So you can call and ask what is going on. So part of it is a management tool, and we cannot run away from it. But as we advance in technology, it creates now many opportunities. You realize that there is a whole department that is called the for us we call them the F1s. These are guys who deal with online monitoring of the sales activities and getting. You can do your reports online and send them to your managers. And so it has created. I see like in most companies you get that if you have let's say 500 sales guys, then you have like 50 or 20 guys are dealing with technology. So you realize that it has created more opportunities. So every other company which replicates technology, it will also be creating a new opportunity for guys to venture in. But for in terms of upcoming Kenyans, maybe who are just doing their own business, you can, for example, you can do a boutique. I have a boutique in Machakos, like you have a boutique in Machakos or in Nairobi, where you sell clothing. But you can also have your boutique on social media and display all your items. I've seen even people call displaying items. When I ask this is where, and it tells me I'm in Mombasa. So I see like I'm able to enter in your shop, but I'm in Machakos. I'm able to enter in your shop. Maybe it's a toolbox, a tool, a hardware, but I am able to see what you are selling, and I'm here. And if that is the case, if I'm constructing a house in Western Kenya, then I have seen part of the hardwares online. I'll just tell that guy I need this and this to be dropped at a particular place. Look at it from the OLX.
Yes.
You can sell your property. There are guys who are in the business of selling property. How many customers do you access? Initially, it was they were called Shamba brokers. And these guys could walk from one customer to another, and to get a customer who can buy land, it was hectic. But right now, I can just take a photo of the plot I want to sell, upload it on OLX or any other place, and then somebody will see it and ask me. They can also have some referrals, and you realize that there are brokers online who get their opportunities just because of knowing how to use technology in the right way.
All right, good. Thank you for that take. The take is interesting. Now, Conrad, like we were saying, maybe not all Kenyans have smartphones, and there's a high number of people who are in Nairobi who have smartphones. Now, the question is, for those who don't have smartphones, like maybe who have just Mulika Mwizi, how can we use the services of USSD to be able maybe to accelerate prevention of diseases and even getting people access healthcare, maybe going forward?
I think rural areas, people are buying smartphones. I think when they started this cheap smartphone from Safaricom, Neon, Kika, the rest, so many people have actually have smartphone in the rural areas, and they should also rural areas now with devolution. There is a lot of money and there is a lot of exposure. So it's not true that 80% or some. So many rural areas actually has a substantial number of people in with smartphone. Of course, they also have the largest people with using this Mulukabis and the rest also. So it's just they're still there. They're still trying to get that, and we'll get there. So in terms, you can repeat your question again about USS.
Yeah, maybe in terms of using messaging services to be able to get more people, especially in rural areas and interior places where there is no access for smartphones, to be able to get services for either clinicians or doctors or even prenatal services, even from home, not necessarily going to a clinic.
Okay. I think on that I watched. I think it was it last year or this year? I'm not quite sure. There's a certain news article concerning the Cuban doctors and the way they were working. So one of them was talking about. Some of them were talking about receiving messages, getting reminders that this and this, they will get a visit this and this date. So I think it's just about people being, because some of these things, they don't actually require much. They require just you sending an SMS to people, reminding them this and this will happen this and this day. And I think the same thing has been used, because I've looked at HIV. The same thing is normally used with HIV when they are given reminder. No matter the phone you have, they are given reminders and told you are supposed to pick your drug and this date. You are supposed to do this. So everything is tracked from the everything you do is tracked on that sphere. So I think if we can scale up to other diseases, if we can scale up to other normal like prenatal, I'm not sure. I've not quite gotten if anything like that is happening. We can be able also to scale up to reminding mothers that you are supposed to go to the clinic this and this particular date, you are supposed to do this, and this particular date. So it is something that can be done, because it's just to ensure that we can be able to send bulk messages, put a certain, probably make a certain system that can be able to automatically send a message 2 or 3 days before the actual date, and ensure that probably a hospital records and the rest are digitized, so that to ensure that we can it can be it can be easily done. So I think on that front there are some places who are doing that, because as I told you when I watched that news article concerning some Cuban doctor doing community health work, going to visit patients in their home, they normally, what they were talking about, they were sent messages before. They were told like this and this date it's coming to this and this area, is going to visit you on this day at this time, so that they know. So I think something that can be scaled up at individually, from the perspective of health centers, they can be able to do this. They know their patients. Those one who require home care, they can be able to do that, but we don't have that one in Kenya currently. It's only the health, these community health workers who do that. So, but nurses hardly do home care. So, I think it's something, if we digitize our systems to ensure that these people who cannot access, they're able to receive certain, they're able to receive services, they're able to receive reminders, SMS, and sometimes it should be in a language that they also understand, so that they can be able, so that you don't send in English and probably the person cannot read English or something like that. So I think something that we can look at ways of trying to use, especially in places where there's less access to things like smartphone. But I think in some areas they are using them, because I'm sure in the HIV program, I'm sure most of them, they have that. The health workers who handle such people, they normally send, that one is normally physical. They send messages physically to them. They timely remind us everything, because you have a certain report you are supposed to fill up report. So every step you do, you are supposed to ensure that the recipient is able to get whatever treatment you have, whatever plan you have, whatever drug you dispense, they're able to receive message in advance, so that you ensure that they don't miss any. So I think something that can be scaled up.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. All right, so gentlemen, I want you guys to comment on vaccine, and then we'll have our parting shots. Maybe I'll start with Alphonse, but I want to make my stand known. So me, I support vaccines, especially if we have vaccine done in Europe, or even in the US, or even in the Asian countries. Vaccines also needs to be tested in Kenya right now. So Alphonse, right now even the MOH is saying they are in talks to try a vaccine in Kenya, as well as even the US, and there's so many other embassies doing campaigns online to educate Kenyans on the role of vaccines. Maybe now you can make your perspective.
Before I give you my perspective, what do you think you're being trained on or being told about the roles of vaccines that we don't know as Kenyans?
One, that vaccine play a huge role in terms of preventing diseases. Like, for example, we have issues of malaria, we have TB, we have measles, and there's so many other diseases that actually, if vaccinated, it will be better off.
So just before, I want to understand something so that even our viewers and ourselves can get it right. But do you think Kenyans are against that?
No, they are not against that.
What do you think?
They are only conspiracy theories that are actually confusing them. So
when a British is saying in a British media, BBC, that they're going to have a test in Kenya, and then a Kenyan president says there's no such a talk, who is saying the truth, or whom should you believe? Kenyan president saying such a talk does not exist, and a British researcher saying that we are in a British media in Britain is saying that we will be doing. We have talks with Kenya. We are going to do these tests in Kenya. Whom do you believe in such a situation where there are two sides that are saying different things? One in Kenya, and you are in Kenya yourself.
Personally, I don't know who to believe.
Okay, so who is speaking on the position of Kenya in that case?
The Kenyan president.
Yes. Now that is where the issue is that if the Kenyan authorities are saying we don't have such discussions, so why should we as Kenyans start saying that then such discussions are there? Because the truth of the matter in the past is that there is something in science, and particularly biological sciences, where when it comes to trials, and vaccine trials being one of them, something called a guinea pig. And you have an animal called guinea pig, but also you have a concept of guinea pig, whereby you test it first, and you test several things, including some things people are here, they call them efficacy, or something like that. You test viability of the medicine if it can work in human beings. So the first part is usually you test in non-human beings, which usually are specific selected animals with similar biological responses to such a drug as human beings to a great extent, not 100%, but maybe 90, 95, or 98%. And most of the time, the rats and the guinea pigs are usually the ones that we use. So such trials have been done. Now, when they are finished with that, then the lesser human beings are usually the next animals to be tested, and they happen to be Africans. This is not theory. In all history, it is confirmed that that's what is happening. And because Africans don't have a voice, so unless we continue having no voice, if they are testing, we want any drug to be used everywhere once it's confirmed. But if the drug is being tested in Europe, let's say in UK for this time, now, why should UK, which is currently even today has the highest death rate after America globally, want to test in Kenya, where we have insignificant numbers? Our total number is not equivalent to number of deaths per day in UK. So those are the why choose Kenya? Why choose Africa, for example, when the French were doing? So I think the issue is that unless we confirm that we are less human beings or lesser of a human being, then they should come and always test in these animals called Africans. If it is working, then they can go and test on now the human beings. But we must resist with what it takes. It is not the color that dictates who we are, it is the content and our persona. There are two things that we must now define, and define it with authority. We have human beings and we have being human. So we need both, that they must remain human and they must also become human. So Africans are human beings, and therefore Europeans should be human to Africans. And the same should happen to any other white race. It is an issue of great concern. We need to have proper protest. We are not begging. We have equal measure of scientists. If scientists are supposed to support our local scientists, then if there's no African who will test it in Europe, I can confirm that. They will actually test it in Africa. So once it works here, we have standards in medicine. So once standards work, then we adopt that standard worldwide. So we are not against vaccines, I must say that, but we are against becoming the guinea pigs for everybody who wants to, whether they're Chinese, the Americans, or the Europeans. We should not be the guinea pigs.
All right, good. Thank you for your perspective. Wekesa, are you there, Wekesa?
Yes,
Wekesa?
I'm there.
All right, so these are very sensitive topic, yeah. But the fact is, like, when we are doing, maybe when trials are done, from the common knowledge is that they will test on those people who are willing to have even those trials. That's one. Number two, they will test even among scientists, and also they will work with the local entities to do that. In this case, when that trial will happen, it should happen with KEMRI. So what is your perspective?
Yeah, I don't want to float a racial card because one of the things we need to look at the discussion objectively. Is somebody trying to sacrifice an African race? The answer is no. Okay, let me ask you this way. When Uhuru sends Kenyan soldiers to Sudan or Somalia in a war-torn area, chances are they are going to die there or come back alive. When you send your soldiers in that area, it means that these guys are going, one is either to protect life, and chances are that they can also be victims of their circumstances. My argument will be, and this is what happens when soldiers are sent out, especially in developed countries. Every family is compensated before the soldiers are sent, because they may not come back alive. So my thoughts will be this way: if there is any country across the planet that needs their citizens to be tested on, it should be done voluntarily, even those who are willing, and they should be describing what form of compensation will come from that, so that there are willing people who wants to go. But in life, we have always had, even when you see Al-Shabaab coming to kill Kenyans, they are doing it on behalf of their own people. They think that they should be on the first line to defend. Maybe there are people who are being victimized in this war. So if there is somebody who thinks that this disease cannot continue killing other human race, but I want to do something so that we can get over this thing, then let them sample. I'm sure not only Kenya or across the globe, there are people who are willing to go and be tested. And every government can produce those who are willing, so that the samples can be taken across the globe. I will be hesitant to use the racial card, because that is what is happening across the globe. We are either looking them from the Chinese point of view, we are looking from the Americans' point of view, the Kenyans' point of view. But ask yourself, then why is it that it's Africa that loves the money from the West most of the time? So we should also look like, if you don't have the goal, you don't set the rules. And I'm not saying that we are a weaker human being, but I'm saying what is our role? What is our contribution? We can say we don't want this, but we want this. We can also come up with a vaccine of our own, and we say we don't want the vaccine for the rest, we have our own. But we can't say we don't want that, but let others be tested. Then if it's working, let it come to us.
Maybe for interjection,
we need to see. Yes.
What I expected for this matter to be objective is this. Each and every country, each and every continent has scientists who do these tests. So what I also know in the world of science is there's something called collaboration. That they share the results, they share the progress, including what is happening about COVID-19. They are sharing worldwide. Yeah, so that Kenyan doctors or Kenyan specialists are aware of what has happened in China or Italy, and they are conversing. Now, how come the issue of vaccine is the only one that is looking like is not in the hands of the specialists who to speak? Because so far, majority of people who are bringing controversial statements are politicians or people with political inclinations, not necessarily technical inclinations. So to me, that's where the objectivity does not exist, because I don't actually believe that in Kenya today, Kenyans who are in that space are not trying something out. And I'm sure Kemri is doing what it should and what it can to collaborate with others worldwide. And I'm practically aware of some papers, and I've talked to a few of my friends who are doctors. They are reading some things to see what's happening and how it's working. So I'm aware that it's actually they are collaborating. But the information they're sharing is totally different from the information we are being fed with. And that's where my issue is, that I think we must be clear that I don't think we are against, but if it is willing, then let it not be that, I'm not, if I'm willing, you don't say Alphonse is willing before Alphonse himself says I'm willing. So when Kenya is saying we are not in collaboration, and then Asante says we are collaborating with Kenya, that's where my stress is.
Yes, let me say something that maybe there are things that are not adding up, because when you have half truth, sometimes it looks like a lie. And a scientist can speak with that confidence because he knows there are discussions going on underground. And my take will be, most of the time, African countries are used for these tests because behind the scene they are compensated. But maybe it's us who don't know. We are not told what exchange happens there. I don't think they just come. There are exchanges that happen, and that's why even most of these African leaders will run to it, because they are told, if you do this, we will give you this. But those people who are tested are never told the form of compensation. Perhaps the discussion should be displayed.
Thank you.
The discussion should be displayed.
And that's what I'm saying. If we wake up and take it the way Patrick is leading us to take it, then those people will never get that compensation. Why? Because even as we speak today, Chad has been offered $47 million US to give some people to be used for samples. Now, those people will they be compensated that? When you now listen to the way Chad is now talking, they are not talking about the $47 million US being floated by France. They're just talking about, we have accepted they can come in our country. So
the problem now, look at it this way. The problem is not like Africans are keen big, but Africans are the ones who accept that money. You see, US will not accept the money. Nobody, you will not accept that money so that they can give their citizens. At least they are financially free. So Africans, now because we are struggling, we use our own people to get the money. But it were better if you say that we need the willing buyer and willing seller. I am Alphonse. I want to be tested for the vaccine, but this is my compensation. If that discussion happens in an open forum, nobody will have a problem, because we have had even people who sell their kidneys, and they willingly sell their kidneys, they willingly donate their hearts for other people. So if it's done an open discussion, then we should not even be thinking about, is it Africa or non-Africa, but it's just the willing buyer, willing seller.
Okay, good. Thank you, Wekesa. I'm sorry we didn't have a specialist in the discussion, so we could have brought that aspect. But anyway, Conrad, I want you to weigh in terms of that, of course, the whole landscape.
Okay. I always like going factual, because when we get the facts, then we can know what we are discussing about. So who is this guy who said about being tried? What did he say? He was some medical, I think, correspondent, something like that. When he was asked, then he said something of the sort that probably in the UK we won't get the right sample size, and we might try it in Kenya, the right sample size. So you see, most people forget about this COVID, because a vaccine is only tried on people who have no virus. You can't try a vaccine on a person who has already contracted the virus. It will be a very difficult test. Then we have other things that are looked into, because you need a wider pool of people to look at all the necessary possibility that exists because you can't just test one group. Let us look, for example, Ebola vaccine, which most people are not aware that was tested actually in Kenya, in Kericho,
Yeah.
and 122 Kenyans volunteered for it, and it was done by KEMRI in collaboration with the people who manufacture that vaccine. So what they do actually, they come to your country and ask. They test several. They won't test UK alone. They'll have to test other countries so that to ensure that this vaccine is at least it can work under this scenario. It can work under that scenario. Probably UK won't provide the necessary scenario they're looking at, because they need to get the scenario which all the possible scenarios that exist. They will need to look what is the interaction with all these hypotheses going around, that this is the way COVID interacts with this. They need to look. There are so many things that they are looking deep into, but it's not a question of that they. It was not actually not a discussion. He just said, I think he said, because they're used to doing that. They used to come into Kenya for such tests, because we know HIV vaccine have been tried actually in Kenya several times. So it is something. The reason why they choose Kenya, UK will choose Kenya. Probably when you go to France will choose probably Senegal or another country. They'll always go to the country where they feel they have the necessary expertise to ensure that these trials are done according to standards, because they won't come here. The Oxford fellows won't come here. They'll only send maybe 2 or 3 people, but the bulk of that trial will be done by our local scientists who will have to do that trial. That's how the Ebola vaccine was done. It was done by KEMRI. They were given the necessary tools, then they were told, you do, then you test, then you share the results with us. We will be monitoring the situation. So that's the way it's done. But it is always on volunteer basis, and you are always paid something. You cannot be forced. They won't come and start injecting people with vaccine. They'll come and ask for volunteers. Sometimes it's normally underground. We never hear about this stuff, but they will always come in their own subtle ways, because sometimes they don't need to raise up the temperature, because they know how things are. They'll come in their own subtle ways. They'll come and ask for volunteers in a certain area. Probably they'll choose a specific area to go and test. If it is successful, well and good, because this is also something, because we can't say that we don't want to be guinea pigs. Of course, UK will also test its own people. So its own people will also become guinea pigs. You see, the only problem is that vaccines are not tested. Like if a vaccine is produced in the UK, they can't just bring it here and test on us. No, they'll have to test it there, but probably they cannot get the right sample size. So they prefer to test in several places. Like even the Ebola vaccine, it wasn't tested here in Kenya alone. It was tested in Nigeria. It was tested, I think, in DRC, Gambia, and we had it was also tested in Europe. There are so many places where they are testing this. So it's not always just one small place where they'll come. But I think it's only that we are getting to know these facts, and we heard about the French comment, which he was talking something good, but he talked in a very, which is the truth actually, because what he was actually saying that they will test the efficacy of that vaccine on people who have not been infected. And how will they know that vaccine works? They look at the immune response. Probably they let them roam around. Because they know eventually, somehow, one way or another, these people will be exposed to this virus. So I think we need to look at it in that way, because it was not an official thing actually. This was just a guy who probably knows these things are done. Like UK, of course, will come where will UK go if it wants to test people? It will of course come to Kenya. If it wants to test people in Africa, it will come to Kenya, because Kenya has the necessary expertise. It has the necessary professionals who can do these things. So it was very premature even to ask Uhuru if he's aware, because probably they are not even under discussion. It was something that was said by a medical or something like that analyst, who is not affiliated to that program. He was just talking about what he has had. And probably they were just, he had something in the planning stage. If we don't get this, probably look at an African country and Kenya can be one of the candidates. So they have not started yet. So once they start and if they don't get, then we shall see how it goes there, how it goes from there.
Yeah. Conrad, I have do we have vaccine for malaria?
Yeah, I think they were tried. I am not quite sure if they're. I think I heard that they launched them some time back or something like that. They were being tried or something like. I'm not quite sure about it, but I heard something like that. It was being launched or something.
So, what are some of the mandatory vaccinations that I have to undergo when I'm going to the US, for example?
I've never gone there, so I
I'm asking that because yellow fever is a problem in some countries.
Yes.
Yellow fever has a vaccine. But there's some countries that doesn't have this vaccine, only they do it for the sake of traveling outside the country. So why are such conditions existing? And the reasons are more political than they are health. The reason why there is no malaria, you see, equator literally is in Africa and it's also in Americas. And therefore, the conditions driving for malaria are both, and the growth of growth and development of mosquitoes is both in Africa around the tropics and also in the Americas. But malaria is only a problem in Africa. Because when we are making some of this development, we also have what we call segregation on how we end up now utilizing the resources available, when, for example, in terms of vaccination and in terms of treatment. So my appeal is, if I look at it from a pure health perspective, what you are saying makes 100% sense, and nobody can argue with what you have said. But because life is not health alone, it is purely politics in each of everything we do. So in such a situation, it's not always a fair issue to assume that there is no political hand for control purposes of the population and the people. Because as Wakita was saying, there will be some form of compensation. As you are saying, there is some form of compensation. Do we have a policy around this thing that whenever we have this happening, this is how we should be going about it? So that even if it's not a matter of a vaccine around COVID or malaria or any other disease, but it is that in the event that it happens, this is the procedure that should be taken. Hata watu wachanuliwe. You can raise the temperatures because people are emotive, but you can also raise awareness. So when you want to raise awareness, what exactly are we going to raise about when this comes? And awareness is part of awareness is compensation, because it is reality. People get compensated. How much do we get compensated? When it comes to the government, how much will the government retain? How much will it be given to the person? If this person succumbs, because you see, he can be successful or not successful. If the people who are vaccinated, the vaccine does not work, that means the person is now injected with the disease and they become sick, and either they live with it their lifetime or it kills them. What should happen in that case? Do we have vaccination? Do we have policy around that space? How are we going to deal with that? I think, to me, the noise I hear and the noise I embrace is that we must take care of the vulnerable who have no voice but are the ones to be used. Because in this case, we are not saying for being volunteering, because people will volunteer for 1,000, yet 1 million has been provided. Where has 990 or 99,000 gone to? And is there a policy framework around it? Those are some of the things I think in future we need to discuss. And maybe Patrick, you'll need to bring a specialist in those aspects so that we are able to get more and the public can benefit.
I think on that issue, because vaccines is not the first time we have been testing vaccine. Cambridge has been involved in a lot of these tests, from HIV to malaria, to name almost all these vaccines. They have been tested here, and I know I'll just have to confirm and check probably one or two details about it. I know they have a certain framework, they have a certain policy on testing. But one thing people forget that when they test this vaccine, they don't actually inject you with the virus. They actually inject you with the vaccine to see the immune response that your body will generate once that vaccine is injected. Then
What's a
from
vaccine?
there, what?
What is a vaccine?
A vaccine.
Yes. I thought a
You
vaccine
know,
is that virus that
no, it's normally a dormant one, but we don't know the technology.
the same virus made inactive to
Mm.
make your body immune system respond as if it was responding to the actual one, so that in readiness, in the event that
Okay.
it
Yes. So, guys, we
I
can have a specialist tomorrow. Tomorrow, a specialist can come. Yeah.
I'll
So,
just answer him that question. You
can.
see, that is the old definition. We
Okay.
have several like what right now they are doing. I'm not sure because they have been not very specific on their details. These guys from Oxford, they have not been very specific. They have just been very vague. But I can talk from others I have seen, like one being made by the US. They are not using. They have changed. They are not using the a mutant or that inactive virus to inject to the body. But what they have created something. I'll use the simple term like a blueprint of that virus. So they have building blocks from RNA or whatever. They inject it into the body. Once they go into the body, they build something that looks like that virus, so that the body responds by trying to tricks the body to respond as if it is a virus. So the toxicity level there, they are not there. So I'm not sure what exactly Oxford is saying because they have not put their details about. They have just been very vague. It is something game changer. What is the first? So probably when they start giving us more information, we shall look at that. But vaccine toxicity, I've not heard about a person dying from it. But toxicity is normally analyzed before they actually inject it. They cannot inject if you can develop toxicity to that. If it will develop, probably to be very mild and they can manage. That's why they look for places where they can have the necessary specialists to manage in case you fall into something that can warrant some medical attention. But on that, it is normally looked into before somebody is injected with that vaccine. The only thing they look at the immune response. They look at the antibodies.
all right. I think that was addressed. Okay. But I'll bring a specialist to come on this, yeah, so that we can have maybe the objective part, yeah. All right. So, Alphonse, maybe you can give your parting shots, and then we go to Ekesa. I hope Conrad will be okay. Then he can make his last parting shot.
I think I've talked, and particularly the last bit, I've really talked disruptively, so I don't let me not finish on a high note. But I want to say this: young people should not despair. They should think of opportunity in this season, and particularly the skills they possess or the one they can sharpen, so that when things cool down, they can actually do something, and opportunities will be there. Let them position themselves very well so that they don't lose out in the opportunity. Solve a problem, create a good experience so that somebody can pay, and you'll be employed for that, or you'll be hired as a specialist on that, so that you can solve that and get your earning.
Right. Great. So I'll try to see if Conrad can come to give his parting shot. Maybe before he gives his parting shot, Wekesa, you have to say something about vaccine trial, and then you go to your parting shot as we wait for Conrad.
Yeah, I will want a situation where our leaders are the one on the forefront championing for this. I will also want a situation where our medics are the ones telling us what exactly is wrong with the vaccines and why we should not take them. For me, as long as they are not anxious. I want to believe that they are trained for the job, and they are still confident that a solution will be found. And so one of the things I want to tell the world is that Kenyans especially, remember that when we were doing the 2010 constitution, there came up so many voices in terms of, if you pass the Qadis code, Islams will take over this nation, and as Christians we will have a problem. But the issue is sometimes we blow issues out of proportion, and you find that we are not creating room for right information. I think even one of the topics we need to handle on this space, there's a genre of pandemic called infodemic. Infodemic is creating a world crisis based on wrong information, creating a crisis based on innuendos, propaganda, and half truths. Sometimes we have truth, yes, but we cannot. You have one piece of truth that I have another piece of truth, but since we can't join it and have a full truth, let me give you an example. Four blind men were sent to go and palpate an elephant, and one of them touched the trunk, another one touched the earlobes, another one touched the tusks, and then another one touched the tail. So after they came back, they were asked to describe the elephant. Whoever touched the earlobe says that an elephant is like a blanket. The other one who touched the tail said that an elephant is a little tiny thing like a rope. Then the one who touched the trunk said an elephant is as huge as a rock. Then the one who touched the tusk said an elephant is like a log of tree. So then they were asked, now between the four, among the four, who described the elephant? The answer was none of them described the elephant. But if you put all the four experience together, it brings up how an elephant looks like. I think when we hear different noises, it's not that there's not a problem, but if we can have somebody who can harmonize our information, the things we are hearing, the for and against, so that we can understand and read from the same page, we can have a success in what we are doing. We are not wrong, but it's just that our information are disjointed.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for that parting shot. I think Conrad is back. Conrad, take us home for your parting shot. Conrad?
Oh, sorry, it was raining, so I had to dash. I had to dash inside the house but I hope my network will be okay.
Yeah, just give. Yeah, we just doing last parting shot, so yours is last. Conrad, can you give
my party?
Right. So
that.
I'm sorry. So it seems still his network is bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Conrad. It's okay. So we'll do tomorrow. Right. So good night, Alphonse and Conrad, and want to say good night to every viewer who was watching and who will be watching. Asanteni sana.
Asante. Bye.
Bye.